This is with only 100 new faces per year entering your SOI database, which means you're only adding 2 people a week. And you can see how that gross commission income increases over time. All you're doing is maintaining your annual database contact plan and slowly growing your SOI. Real estate is a game of touches, okay? And we talked about mind share, right? And when we talk about mind share, we talked about how over a period of time, just like, Bud Light or Coca-Cola, if we stay in front of people through different means of diversification through our annual database contact plan, whereby we're emailing marketing, Facebook retargeting, direct messaging, mailing, all those wonderful, magical things. If we're doing all of that, we should be able to stay in front of people without harassing them, because we're always coming from contribution. We're always trying to add value and we're not harassing people. So because of that, we should be in a scenario where we are always staying first of mind in a positive way to gain that mind share. So it becomes this game of touches where we're trying to consistently stay in front of them throughout the year. And this is where most agents fall apart, is they don't do a very good job of keeping it going. They might start the year all excited and motivated and stay on top of their annual database contact plan, but then they start getting some business and they get too busy and they get behind. They're like, hey, I'm too busy. I got to take care of my clients first. This is what these people care about. It's my customer service, or I got to keep family life balance. So all this happens and we shut our marketing department down for a while we handle our life and our clients, because we're so busy. And then our marketing department shut down. So after a while, we close all that business that had us too busy, and it creates a gap in production because we stopped trying to market. So then we got to work again and get all busy and stressed out again until we're busy again. And we shut our marketing department down. So that real estate roller coaster of busy, not busy, busy, not busy, lead generate, don't lead generate, lead generate, don't lead generate. Close business, no business, close business, no business. That roller coaster persists, and that's very, very stressful. So what do we have to do is we have to keep score and make sure we keep up with our annual database contact plan so that our business is more consistent and we can make confident moves with it, right? So I use the tennis analogy, right? If you're keeping score, you play tennis a lot better. And this is what happens when you play tennis with someone. You get on a tennis court and you just start hitting the ball back and forth over the net. And it's fun. You just hit the ball back and forth over the net. And it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's fun. It's called, volleying back and forth, or it's a rally, I think. Back and forth, back and forth. But then the minute you say, hey, let's play a game, let's keep score. And then you start keeping score in tennis. Next thing you know, the ball starts going across harder and faster in more of a straight line just over the net. You start placing it in the corners. You start running harder. You start trying harder because you're keeping score now. And that's what happens in real estate. You start trying harder if you keep score of the contacts you make in your annual database contact plan, which is why we use a scoreboard. It's why we use a CRM. It's why we track the number of contacts that we're making, because in order to, finish out the week hard Thursday and Friday, we might know we need to make a bunch more contacts to get caught up. And that's the little motivational difference that helps us make those extra contacts. So we always want to play the numbers in real estate. Don't ever just go by what you feel like you want to do, because once again, this is crazy town up here and you're the mayor of it. It is crazy how quickly you will make bad business decisions if you are not following some sort of plan. Okay? So keep track of how you're doing in staying up with your annual database contact plan. Okay, so numbers just to start with before we talk about the numbers I want you to track. Number one, 33% of all newly licensed agents quit real estate after their first year. Number two, 87% of agents leave the business within their first 5 years. 87% of licensed agents quit and don't make it to 5 years. That's 9 out of 10, almost. That's crazy. 89% of all transactions in the United States, this is just the United States, are handled by 11% of agents in the United States. That's pretty daunting. It's for those reasons. And they all quit for the same reasons. The 33% quit in the first year, 87% quit in the first 5 years, and 89% of agents are all battling for a small little 11% of the country's production. Why is there so much failure? It's always the same reason. Take it from me. It's they don't have enough business. That's it. I've ran too many brokerages, coached too many agents, trained too many agents, thousands of them. And when people fail, it's always because they need to make a living. It's never because, man, I just couldn't provide good enough customer service or things like that. If they quit, other than retirement, it was because they couldn't make enough income. They didn't make enough money. It wasn't steady enough income. And so it has everything to do with how good and how much effort they put forth. And then I'd ask them the question, so how much time in the last month have you spent on activities that were designed to generate new income, not income you already have? And it was shocking. I don't mean showing property. That's income you already have. That's a lead you've already generated. You're just trying to convert it. I'm talking about trying to generate new leads. And most of them say next to nothing. So your biggest concern that causes you to quit is not having enough income. And you spent absolutely no time trying to do activities to generate income. And overwhelmingly, the answer is always yes. So that's why it's my life's mission to rectify that problem. That's why my whole company is built around trying to stop the failure rate in real estate. So we're trying to help you generate more income. And so all of our tracking and all of our systems need to be forced in that one direction to prevent those overwhelming numbers from consuming you and your business as well too. Okay. So one of the things we told you before that we just mentioned, and I want to go into in a little bit more detail, is for your annual database contact plan, we need to make 100 contacts, right? And we're going to do that by a bunch of social media posts and stories and Facebook 10-10-5s and some email marketing, some listing e-alerts, maybe client event contact invitations, mailers, market updates, all these different ways you can make contacts. It's up to you how you're going to customize it, but we're going to make 100 of them on every single member of our SOI database over the course of a year. Okay. Here's why. The answer why is another number, and it's lucky number 7. Lucky number 7. Okay. And number 7 is extremely unique because of my ratio that we've worked with for many, many years, that for every 7 people in your SOI database, you will receive 1 side of business from their production. Okay. So for every 7 people in their SOI database, you will receive a side, whether it be a buyer side or a seller side. Okay. And that's more or less the focus here. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay. So I'm going into my SOI workbook here. So you can see this 7-to-1 conversion here, right? And we're going to assume that your SOI database has, let's say, 300 people in it, people that know who you are, who you know. Okay. And let's say you make 100 contacts of them over a year. And then you apply our 7-to-1 conversion ratio, which means for 300 people, we divide it by 7 transactions, which gives us rounded up to 43 closed transactions in 1 year from your referral database alone. Okay. 43 closed transactions, because we took a 7-to-1 conversion. For every 7 people in your database, you got 1 closed transaction, whether it be a buyer or seller side. So 300 divided by 7 equals 43 closings. And this is where I want to stop for a minute, because a lot of you are going to question this and say, wow, I don't believe you. And this is the part I really want to make sure you understand. You need to believe me. We've been doing this for a very, very long time. In fact, there's many other coaching companies and real estate training companies out there over the last 20, 30 years. They predict similar numbers. There's many companies that say it should be a 8-to-1 ratio. I've heard 10-to-1. In the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, the MREA book by Gary Keller, he predicts on a 33 touch database, which is 33 contacts a year, a 12-to-2 ratio, which if you simplify that ratio, it's a 6-to-1. So, so they do work. I mean, if people differ on how many contacts you need and what the exact ratio is and what types of contacts you should be making in your annual database contact plan over the course of a year. but they're all pretty close to that. And we use the segment that we've coached and trained as well to get our numbers. And I know ours are accurate. In fact, our numbers are never far off, but that doesn't mean it happens a lot. It often doesn't happen at all, but it's never because the numbers don't work. It's because the agent doesn't make 100 contacts a year. If you don't make 100 which is hard to do. I mean, there's lots of reasons why an agent doesn't make 100 contacts. Most agents don't keep up with their annual database plan. Heck, I'd say 80% of agents never even get their SOI database in their CRM together. I'd say another 50% of agents never even choose a CRM. They just stuck in decision and never even learn how to use their CRM, let alone decide on one to buy. They get stuck for years. But we could go on and on and on about all these things we need or have to have, and they all stop us. Well, I'm not going to get my database together because I still got to decide on that CRM. I've seen that paralyze many agents, if not the majority of them, for decades. And they don't even realize it's happening. Why? This is crazy town, and they are the mayor of it. They're making too many decisions. We need to create plans that do not allow us to make decisions. If you make a decision about whether you're going to go to the gym or not, you're not going to stay going to the gym for long. If you're going to make decisions about your diet every day, pretty soon you're going to make the wrong decision. You're going to come off your diet. So you've got to understand and be self-aware how the human brain works. It's not perfectly based in logic. That's for darn sure. Okay. So I've never seen this ratio not work out ever. It always works out. But 95% of the time minimum, agents don't do the 100 contacts, so it doesn't work out. So it's user error. It's not because the ratio doesn't work. You wonder, well, if it was this easy, wouldn't everybody do it? Well, it's just not that easy. That's the thing. It's hard. You got to call. If you got 300 people and I say you're going to call them twice a year, that's 600 phone calls you're going to make. You know, it's hard. You got to coordinate the client events. You got to do the text. You got to set up the CRM, set up the action plan. You got to do all this. And it's not digging a ditch. In fact, it's probably easier than any job that you went to on a 9-to-5 for a 40-hour work week. But it's just a lot harder when a boss is not going to fire you for not doing it. When you're your own boss, it's extremely hard. There's nothing hard about it. This is very easy work. You'd never, ever get a job working for another company that would be this easy on you, telling you that you need to set up your database, get your SOI together, put them in a contact plan, and spend 1 to 2 hours a day contacting them. You're never going to get a job that is that freaking easy. But for some reason, because you're working for yourself, it's extremely hard. So be self-aware of that. Don't make excuses, and don't tell yourself you can't do this, because it's very, very easy if you don't get in your own way. Most people get in their own way. Absolutely get in your own. They make too many decisions and they think about too many dumb things. They worry about their website, their business cards, all these other silly things, their CRMs, all that other stuff. And that all becomes their excuse for not doing the most important thing, which is build their book of business. Get their income. Okay. This is off a much lower price point than many of you are used to. It's based on like an average price of, $250,000, but you can see how much 43 transactions mathematically applies to, even with that low of a purchase price. You'd be up at 600,000 plus if your average price was 500,000. This is a lot of income. Okay. Again, this is why when I tell you the top agents are generating the bulk of their business from their SOI, I absolutely mean it. That's where the best dollars are. The amount of income that we can generate from this low-hanging fruit is so often overlooked. It's unbelievable. So because of that, I want to make sure that's why we always put their big business first, right? So as a backdrop to that, let me show you. I'm going to give you this sheet to use. It's something we do with all of our coaches. You're starting to build it, right? We talk about how you measure up, because we talked about, in our last session, how you're trying to find and grow that SOI to get that number up. And we used an example of how you could get, 43 closed transactions out of 300. Well, we want to grow that number, right? So because, we could get, if we had 600 people, in theory, we could get 86 closed transactions a year. And so every amount of SOI we build, the more we build our book of business, the more that 7-to-1 conversion rate takes effect, and we generate more business from it. So that's why you always talk about the merit of an agent or anyone in sales is based upon the size and quality of that book of business. So again, we go through here and we start building this. This is a fillable form you can use. How many people in our SOI can we get from our strongest advocates? what are the different plays, how many people can we get from the different groups of people, like your phone contacts, your wedding lists, Facebook friends, church membership lists, et cetera, HOA directories. Then you got to start thinking about all the people that you put together that you can remember in your major sphere categories, like clubs, organizations, sports, more distant relationships with friends and family, things like that. Professional service providers from that big list of people from your vendor list. That's your business service providers. Who do you know? So we add those numbers up and we get that total number. And that's the exercise we always want to be, and I'm going to give that to you. We always want to be trying to grow that number consistently, not just contacting it. We want to keep making it bigger and better. Okay. And we've got some scripts for you to download as well too, that I'm sharing with you on different ways you can reach out to those people to get the rest of their contact information. I think I gave you some of those scripts in the last session as well too. So you can constantly reach out to them over and over again and ask for their email address or their mailing address or things like that. So that way you can keep growing that SOI, because you're going to hear me always say, yes, we got to stop. Yes, we always need to contact everyone and make our 100 contacts a year, which is the name of the game. That's where the bulk of your time is going to be spent. But you should also have some sort of concentrated goal on how to grow it at all times. So we always want to be building and growing our SOI database and always have goals around that and track how we're doing with those goals so that you constantly grow the number in your database as well too. So here's how that might look if I expand it in my workbook. So if we take a look over here, you can see, let's say we have a goal that every week we are going to try to meet 5 people. Now they could be people that we already know, that we forgot about, that we saw in the grocery store. Hey, Brian. Hey, Dave. Or they could be new people we met because we're trying to engage and join different groups. I love this as an idea of getting out and joining, different groups like, service community groups like Rotary or Lions Club or Kiwanis, or different, referral networking groups like BNI and things like that, or working for charities and nonprofits. All, a new agent, especially if your complaint is I don't have a big enough SOI because I'm young or I'm new to an area, then man, you got to get out and start meeting people. So we got to get involved, get in school PTAs, get involved in different, your kids, parent groups and sports, and maybe you play some sports, or get involved in different ways you can network through your hobbies. All these different ways are different ways to meet people, because you need to grow your business. And even if you are established with a big SOI, you're always going to be better served to grow it. So you set a goal around it. I'm going to add 5 new people to my SOI per week. We're going to say there's 50 weeks in a year, because we're going to give you 2 weeks off. That means in a year, you'd add 250 people to your SOI database if you were consistent about it, right? Then if we apply the 7-to-1 to it, that means you're going to get an additional 36 transactions from those new 250 people the following year. And we've seen how those dollar amounts matter, right? I mean, it becomes really, really powerful when you're doing that, okay? And you can see, I'll show you where, the growth pattern that's associated from not just contacting it, but continuing to grow the size of it gets highly motivated, because you're actually building in your book of business, your SOI database, something that amounts to a tangible asset here. You know what I'm saying? This is based off of a 3% commission rate and a very, very conservative sales price nationally of $250,000 on average. You can see as you grow the number in your SOI with that 7-to-1 ratio, as long as you make your 100 annual contacts a year, you can keep growing, okay? This is with only 100 new faces per year entering your SOI database, which means you're only adding 2 people a week. And you can see how that gross commission income increases over time. All you're doing is maintaining your annual database contact plan and slowly growing your SOI. It is hilarious how there are so many creative people in real estate that are unsuccessful because they want to think of new magic pills and they just can't stay consistent. They have to keep changing jobs, lead sources. And it is the very few successful agents that actually keep themselves focused and build a successful business like this. They don't keep jumping around. They don't keep trying to chase new shiny objects or looking for magic pills. they just stay focused and they just keep stacking and building. And it's really easy. And they don't need to chase down all these cool things. I mean, honestly, tell my clients, stay off YouTube, stop looking for new ideas. You know what to do already. All those things are going to do is just keep you from doing the one thing that all successful agents have in common. So that's why a consistent effort, if there's any metric you track, which I track this with all my agents, okay? Whether they be, agents on a real estate team or solo agents alike. I'll give you an example. I'm pulling up my old sample real estate team scoreboard right now. I'm going to show you what this looks like. This is a really junky, old, clunky model, but you can see top teams, and this is, a lot of high performing teams will use these. We track, the first two things I track is how many SOI contacts each agent is making per week and what their monthly goal is and how many annual contacts they're trying to make. And then how many new members they add. This is SOI growth. How many new people are they adding to their SOI database per week? What's their monthly goal? What's their annual goal? Then we can track a bunch of other stuff like open houses, lead follow-up tasks, listing appointments set, listings had, buyer set, buyer had, training. And I know you guys are all getting excited about that stuff because you're agents, which means there's a likelihood you will fail. All I want you to focus on is these two. If you could just ignore all the other stuff and just do these two, you'd probably be the number one agent in your MLS. It's the other things that distract you that makes people not top producers. The top producers know how to focus on that database. They know how to invest in their marketing for that database. They don't think their way out of it. They don't get afraid. They don't get cautious. They just stay with that plan. They contact their database and they grow their database. So if there's one thing that we coach, it's trying to keep people focused. Now, we coach all the other ways to get business. We coach all the online lead sources. We coach just about every different way you can generate new business from people you don't know. Don't get me wrong. But there's one caveat. We will not teach it to you or coach you on it unless you are maintaining and growing your SLI database. Those new sources will never be in lieu of that. We got to have you grow that foundation because that's where more than 50 to 60% of your business must come from. It's the foundation of your business generation model there. So we got to have it come from that angle. So again, we've got more scripts for you guys on how to ask for referrals that you guys can download here that I've shared with you. But that's basically in a nutshell, what I want you to do is I want you guys to focus on those two things. I want you to focus on your annual database contact plan. Like Jacob, get that thing set up, man. Get it planned out. Here's what I'm going to do. Input it in your CRM, program into action plans. Okay. Then I want you to start growing your SOI database because you can see what type of impacts it has on your income if you just stay focused on that. And if you can stay focused on that and keep up with your annual database contact, then and only then have you earned the right to go jump into lower dollar producing activities because they're lower. I mean, why would you not go for the thing that has the highest conversion rate? You're not going to find a 7-to-1 conversion rate anywhere in real estate. Nothing close to it. You're going to go out there and try all these different other sources of leads, whether you pay for them or you just do a lot of uncomfortable activity to get them, which is fine. But the problem is if you do them and ignore your SOI activities, now we're being counterproductive. So that's why I want that first. I want you to start setting up those packages and those action plans in your CRM.